tomorrow starts our court date for the thing that happened, the shooting that happened at Burnett Chapel. And we'll start up in the morning. We're going to get there about a little before 8:30, and the proceedings will start, and they'll go on throughout the week, what they tell us, and at least through Friday. A lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts in this trial. I appreciate so much, and I'll say this without any reservation at all, I appreciate so very much you and your prayers for our church, the day in which this event happened, and the many prayers have been offered up throughout the brotherhood and throughout the nation on behalf of Burnett Chapel. It was September 24th, 2017. Sunday morning worship service, similar to every other Sunday morning worship service. We're a small congregation, and services were over, and I walked to the back to shake hands as people come out the door, and we had the closing song, the closing prayer, and then people began to leave. And one lady named Melanie, she came out and shook my hand. We did that little bumper car type talking to one another, how you doing, what kind of... And she said, I'll be right back in. I've got to go to my car and get a cough drop. And so she went on out and went to her left. Now, my granddaughter had gone out and went to the right a little earlier. And I stepped back in. My wife was out on the porch area with a few other ladies, and they were talking, and Brother Jenkins was out there. And I stepped back into the vestibule to say something to someone, and we heard pow, pow. And someone within the auditorium said, it sounded like gunshots. And I turned and stepped back out the door and looked to the left where the sound came from and heard another sound, another gunshot. And after that sound, there was nobody over here. Our parking lot is just inside there, the corner of the building inside. And it would be about where the corner of this pulpit area is. And I'm looking that way, and a man came out around the corner, had a gun and a mask on. And he turned toward us, and he started shooting and coming toward us at a pretty fast gait. And I stepped back in the auditorium and yelled for they said I don't know what I yelled. Probably screamed like a girl, but not that there's anything wrong with the way girls scream. But I stepped back in and yelled for him to run. And people began to take off running. I stepped back up toward the door, but I couldn't get all the way to the door because there was glass on this side of the door also. And so I waited beside the wall, and I picked up a prayer box that we had. It's all we had in the vestibule. There was nothing out there. Someone asked me, do you keep a baseball bat there now? But I don't, but I wish I probably need to. But I tried to find something that I could use and found a prayer box. But our prayer box was empty. And man, it was as light as could be, but it's all I had. And when he stepped around the corner into the vestibule, I threw it at him and hit him, but wasn't any force to it. He pushed it off pretty easy, and then he shot 3 shots in my direction. One of them, when I threw with both hands, try to get some ump on it, and threw it. And when I threw. He took some shots my way. 2 of them went into the bathroom. One of them went through here and took off this finger. It just tore it loose. It was still hanging. And bullet went into the bathroom, the ladies' restroom, and another one went by my ear. I heard it. I told him right that morning at the hospital that I heard it go by my ear. And so 2 of them went there, and then the third one went into my chest area. And it shut me down. I grew up on Roy Rogers and Gene Autry and those guys, and it's going to take about 4 shots to get me down. And I thought, I'm going to get to him, but my body shut off just like that. And I went across him and fell onto the floor on the other side. Shots kept ringing out. They were loud. The thought going through my head was so surreal. It was like everything was going slow motion, and yet it was going fast. And things were fuzzy around it, and yet clear in the middle, just like you see on TV where they show these things happening. And when I fell down, I pushed myself over against a wall, and my wife had been shot, and she was laying on the other side, and a few of the other people, all the people who were shot right at the entrance, and except for Melanie, who was shot and killed outside. He put 3 shots in her. When I fell, went up against that wall, my wife was calling my name, and I said, she said, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And I said, "Honey, he's killed me." And things were getting fuzzy and smaller and smaller, but you could still hear gunshots going off in the auditorium. Last that time I saw the shooter, he stepped over them at the doors. I was looking back at him, and he walked in the auditorium, and the gunshots kept going off. I sort of lost contact with the gunshots. All of a sudden, there weren't any, and I was fading fairly quick, and all of a sudden, people were around us. A nurse came up to me, one of our women there who was a nurse, and she began to apply pressure. Actually, two women, both with nursing experience, started trying to work on me. One of them bent over and asked the other one, "What do you need? What do you need?" And "I need something to stop this bleeding." This woman had a sweater hanging off of her around her neck, and Minerva grabbed the sweater and pulled it down. And Armella, whose sweater it was, told me later, she said, "Joey, that was my favorite sweater." and I said, "Well, I'm sorry. It still has blood on it. It's still in her washroom. She won't wash it." But they all work on us. Then they keep talking to you. They try to keep, just like on TV, they try to keep you awake. Stay with us. What's your name? What's your name? And I say, "Joey Spann." Then this actually happened. "How old are you?" I said, 66. But I'm weak. I'm fading in and out a little bit, and they say 66. And when I had fallen, I tried to push. I thought I'd been shot with a paint gun. It didn't hurt. It just stung. When I pushed myself up, I saw my finger dangling. Then all of a sudden, blood covered it where I started bleeding. They said, "How old are you?" I said, 66. They said, 60? I said, 66. You're 60? I said, "Sure." I did. That's honest truth. Sure. Yeah. And later, my wife got upset about that. In the newspaper, it said Peggy Spann, 65, and Joey Spann, 60. And bothered her a little bit. I called her a cougar after that. We just ran with 60, and things went. I was taken to the hospital immediately. It's funny, on the way to the hospital, I lived in Nashville most of my life, and you're sort of following the route in your mind, where you're at. We're on the interstate right now. We're getting off at Broadway right now. And I'm sort of doing that in my head, but I'm also watching the lights. When I had died in 2011, I coached basketball at Good Pasture, and we were playing Lipscomb, and I died at halftime of the game there. And after they resuscitated me and stuff, people would ask me, "Did you see a light?" And I said, "No." It scared me a little bit. No, I didn't see a light. This time I was looking for a light, anything. And I was watching around. And I honestly thought there was lights all around me, but I hadn't left my body. And it was just the lights of the place. But I was accepting any light right now, and went on to the hospital, and they took us in. Some of us they took there, and a couple of the other ones they took over to Summit, to Vanderbilt, where we went. They went over to Summit, and inside the trauma unit, they were working on us, and I just remember it being real, real loud, and people crying, and those doctors giving those orders, and nurses talking. And it was just confusion to me, and it was all over. But I still think I'm dying. I think I'm dying. and they're working hard on me, and but they don't gently do stuff, man. They throw you wherever they want you, and they started probing to get. They left the bullet. I still have the bullet in me, but they were trying to stop the bleeding. It felt like they were putting their fist down in my chest as I was lying there, and a little bit later, a doctor shook me on my shoulder, and I had passed out, I guess, and he woke me up, and it was that voice, Mr. Spann. Mr. Spann. And if you think Peter knows English, and Mr. Spann, I said, yes. And he said, I'm Dr. Weichert. Listen, and he's patting me, He said, I did everything I could. We couldn't save your finger. And at this time, I still think I'm dying. And I said to him, what about me? And this is how I found out that I was. He said, no, you're going to be all right. I said, well, I don't care about that finger. That finger is not a big deal. I'm all right. Yeah, you're going to be okay. You're going to make it. The finger has turned out to be a little bigger deal than I let on at the very beginning. The phantom pains are still there. It still feels like the finger is there, and it feels like it's in a vice a lot of the time where it's being squeezed. And I've had people, after I've given this talk, come up to me who had also lost fingers or lost an arm or something. And I'd asked them about the phantom pain. And one of them said, he'll get over it in a couple of years. And another one said, no, he still has it 20-something years later. And the finger has been an interesting thing. I played around. I use humor to deal with things. It's sort of my defense mechanism, I guess. And I used it at the hospital. I was there Sunday through Thursday. I came home Thursday. I had been shot the most critically, other than the one who had been shot to death, and yet I got out of the hospital pretty fast, and I thank God for that. I went there, played around. The nurses would come in, and they were putting that thing on your finger to check your blood pressure and whatever, heart, whatever. And then she said, well, something was with this. She said, let me see the other finger. And I said, you kidding me? What are you talking about? She said, oh, I'm sorry. And of course, we didn't let up. We went, my nephew was in there with me, and we went after her with it. How could you didn't know? How in the world? And it began to be a running joke in there. And I accidentally, the finger, I can't do quotes anymore when I preach, he said, because it still feels like the finger's there. And so when I do that, and I've started, I teach Bible at Nashville Christian, and I'll point to people, David, and I went to Publix, and I pulled in Publix, and I went in and got some groceries. I was in a church van, and I came back, and I was putting stuff in, and parking spot right here, handicapped parking spot right here behind me, but my door was open up. This was empty. And I was putting stuff in. Well, a car comes in and starts to turn in and stops. And so I see her over my shoulder, and I'm going to tell, just a second. But I did it with that hand, but I didn't think about it. And so I got on in the car and shut the door, and it hit me. Wait a minute. I got to apologize to her. I got to explain. I got the church name on the van. So I got out, and I waited for her to get out of her car, and she wouldn't get out. And so it hit me what she was doing, and I wasn't going to knock on her window and say, get out. So I just got in the car and drove on off and let her think whatever she wanted to think about the church. But the finger has caused a lot of issues for me. Satan, I believe, meant to tear down Burnett Chapel that day. I think it was a blow against not just our church, but all churches. Actually, a blow against all meeting places of worship. When we were shot up, I bet you felt like you were too. There's that insecurity that came along with it. And Satan wanted to make us so insecure that we'd just stop, that we wouldn't have our church there anymore, that we would have to, if we continued going to church, we'd have to split up and go other places. But that was decided against right away. our congregation, our people never missed a day. They were back that Wednesday night. Now, a lot of church buildings, churches around us, not just Churches of Christ, but a lot of the churches around us offered their facilities to us and offered us to come and have part of the facility. We didn't even have to be in their worship. We could use their facility. And we appreciated that. One of our members said, no, this is where we go. And so they were back there Wednesday night, and then I got to come back for Sunday morning worship. I couldn't preach till January or so, but I felt like it was important that I go back. And got back, and the TV cameras were all there. I missed all that TV stuff, except at the hospital they asked me if I would hold a press conference to sort of help Vanderbilt in this crisis they were in about how they were handling. FBI had shut down the hospital, had shut down everything. You couldn't have gotten into my room. I had one friend whose daughter does nursing assignments up there, and she told him where I was at, and so he just passed right by everybody and went up the elevator to the floor I was on and got off, and the FBI grabbed him and took him in. And he said he was in there for about 45 minutes. He confessed to 3 crimes while he was in there. But he finally said, can I just go home? They said, yeah, go on home. I did a press conference up there that they told me there'd be 2 or 3 people there, and went down there and the room was full of cameras and people. And I'd been kidding for a couple of days already about this. And so they said, I rolled in Vanderbilt. People just rolled me up and left me. And I'm in there in front of all the cameras and stuff. And I said, well, guys, I don't know how we're supposed to do this. Somebody said, how did Sunday morning go? Just tell us about Sunday morning. I said, well, we had a great sermon Sunday morning. And I waited for a laugh, And it wasn't it. It was crickets. And it hadn't hit me that they're still in that other mode. And I said, John, I'm the preacher there, Still nothing. And so I went on in with the rest of it. And I don't remember much of the conference. I was still on morphine and stuff. But they said it was a good conference we had. But I whenever I would go and meet someone who I knew, like I know so many of you here, they said, I saw the thing, man, I got your joke. I laughed at your joke. When I heard you tell that, I knew you were okay. Tennessean lady who I'd had other dealings with through sports and stuff came up to me right after we did, and she said, listen, Joey, I got your joke. I started to laugh, and 2 of the people in front of me jerked around and looked at me, and she said, so I didn't laugh. I said, okay, that's all right, Holly. Appreciate it, though. And I couldn't see my wife because we could only have so many visitors, 4 visitors, and that was it. Same 4 the whole time you're there. And of course, I didn't put her on my list. She didn't put me on her list since we were in the hospital. The nurses snuck me over. Peg had a not a cardiac arrest, a heart attack on the Monday, I think, or Tuesday. And they had to have open heart surgery with her. And the way I found that out was the nurse said, well, your wife came through the surgery. I said, what surgery? And told me she'd had that done while she was there. The bullet severed her nerve in her leg. And she even now can't walk well. That foot is dead. She doesn't have any feeling. She has to pick it up extra high so it doesn't get hung on something because she has no feeling in it. And she got it hung on a towel or something at home and didn't know it was hung and fell and broke her wrist then. And so it's been a lot of stuff she's been going through. They put us all together at an 8 meeting with the district attorney and surround the hall because I was only involved in like the first 10 seconds of what took place there. One of the members said, you didn't have time to get afraid. And I didn't have time to be afraid. They said, we did. They were hiding under the pews. There's people 60 70 years old hiding under the pews. Some running back, going into the baptistry rooms, some running down the hall. My grandson took out this way. And they could hear him coming down the middle aisle, and the shots getting closer and closer and loud. It was so loud. And they locked the door, but all they had was this little door handle lock, where they turn it to lock it. And they were trying to call the police. They were trying to be quiet, too, and they were nervous as he kept getting closer and closer. They were afraid he could come through the door easily if he wanted to come through the door. and they were terrified. And we had our little kids class going on and down the other hallway, and they were putting I think they put a couch over there, and they were blocking their door. It was a horrific thing. And Satan wanted to use that to stop us. His intention, I think, was to take a strike against the Lord's church. I thought of different things. I thought of how Satan misunderstood things. I think he misunderstands God's relationship with us. I don't think he gets it. I don't think he gets our relationship with God. He really thinks, he did this with Job. Let me have him for a little bit, and even though I can't touch him, I'll get him to leave you. He actually says this in Job 1, he'll curse you to your face. Say that to God. Man, when I'm through with him, he'll curse you to your face. And he did so many things to him, including killing his children, 10 children. He buries 10 children at once. And then he comes back again, and he's allowed now to touch him, and he covers him with these boils. This is how I don't think Satan understands us. Satan thought man would quit. Yeah, all that a man hath will he give, skin for skin, all that a man hath will he give for his life. And Jesus says, no, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? All that he has, he'll give for his soul. Different philosophies. Satan thinks that if he makes things hard enough on you, you'll quit. You'll walk away. He may have to try multiple things, but he'll keep trying, and he'll try to find that thing that gets you to doubt God, that thing that gets you to turn your back on God and to walk away from God. And I think he was trying to use this to do that. He misunderstood man's relationship with God, but also with each other. And I never had noticed this until my son was in a car accident in April following this and lost part of his left leg. And we were afraid he was going to die. And it hit me the next time I was speaking about Job and how God and Satan didn't get God and he didn't get our relationship with God. I saw for the first time, he doesn't even understand us. He had taken Job's 10 children that first time. And then he thought some boils on Job. He thought Job was so selfish that the sores meant more than the sons and the daughters. Why, if I lost 10 kids, you could do about anything to me. Wouldn't matter. Wouldn't hurt anymore. But he said, and even Job's wife said to him, I know you know the famous line, curse God and die. But he also said, do you continue to hold on to your integrity? What you are when nobody else is around. You're still holding on to that. And Satan thinks if he does enough to us, we'll let go of that integrity. We'll let go of that faith, that trust, that love we have for God. He really thinks that way. Why? That particular day, it was there was so much hate there, evidently. We know the boy, the young man. He went to church with us. We baptized him. They left because they moved. Everything was great. They helped us in VBS. He and 3 friends came, stayed with us for a few months. They ate in our homes and in our fellowship meals. And we don't know why today he came back. Shoot, if he'd have come up that day without the gun, we would have hugged and said, man, where have you been? It's so good to see you. But he didn't. We don't know why. It's one of the questions I'm hoping to find out this coming week. Why would he do that? A lot of things came about because of the shooting. Our church light was able to shine to the community. I got to see the cable of what we had on the internet, of all the interviews that took place. They taped us off. Some of you may have went down there. They taped it off with the police tape, and the crowd was gathering all around it, and they went around and interviewed of people, and the things that they would say, they said things like, well, they're always doing things for the neighborhood. We'd have clothing giveaways, and we'd do VBS, and we'd have fair crafts and carnival day, and we'd do whatever we could to get the people to come to the church. But honestly, they just didn't come. They just didn't come except for that type of stuff. So I really didn't know if these things worked or not. Now I listened to them talk. Even though we never would get hardly any of them to come to the church, the light of the church was still shining in the neighborhood. I went to a store. We had an opportunity to let our light shine. I said right away, I don't like doing TV interviews, but I told them I praying to God about it. When they asked me, will you go down and meet with the people on Tuesday? I prayed to God and I said, every chance I get, I'll go and glorify you with this. Every chance if they ask, I did turn one church down. They called me from Arkansas or Nebraska, one of those states. I said, we have a youth rally. Would you come down and speak at it? I said, I'd probably get somebody else to speak at a youth rally. And I turned that one down, but I don't turn them down. It's like today I'm trying to do two at once. So, but I think it's important to tell the story, to share the faith that's taken place. TV, the interviews. Man, they've had my picture on the paper, that big a picture, and I told the lady on Thanksgiving Day, they put a big picture of me on there and said something there. And I told the Tennessean lady, Holly, I said, Holly, thanks a lot. I can't even sin in public anymore. People recognize me. I got to be careful now. There's a liquor store in West Nashville called Wendell Smith. I think that's the name. No, that's the name. My daughter called me up. I was at Nashville Christian. She said, would you go by Wendell Smith's? And Ricky works there. He used to be in our youth group, but he's working there. He owed her some money, and she said, would you pick it up for me? And I said, well, it's like $90. So I said, I just have the church van. I'm not going to go to the liquor store in the church van. And she said, no, you won't have to go in. He'll come out. So I said, okay, if you got to have it. And so I drove over and pulled up, but he's not coming out. And I wait. And so I think, what am I going to do? And so I said, I'll go in quickly, grab it, get out. And so I got out, and I walked with my head down up to the door, and I opened it up, and two women are coming out, and their arms are full. And so I stepped back and let them out, and one of them stops right there in the doorway and says, oh, you're that pastor. I said, golly. And she turned to the other. This is that pastor that was shot. We've been praying for. Oh, it's so good to see you. How you doing? And man, I feel terrible now. And I know how guilty I look. And I said, well, I'm doing all right and stuff. Thank you for your prayers. Listen, I'm not here buying any liquor. And there they are loaded up. And I said, not that there's anything wrong with that. But I'm not here buying any liquor. But I felt so guilty. And then Ricky saw it. He come running out. He said, now, he's not here getting anything. He just come to pick up some stuff. And he slipped me this wad of money, and so I put it in my pocket. I said, it turned from me going to a liquor store to a West Nashville drug deal. It's like that. But they were so friendly and stuff. Went to buy some furniture. The guy at the store recognized me, wanted to take a selfie with me. I said, why? I got shot. He said, yeah, well, just because we represented something. And so he takes selfie. He gets his store manager to take the picture for us. And both of them live over in our neighborhood. They travel to Franklin to work. They drive. So we go by your church every day. We've been worried about you. I'm wondering about you. It's so good to me. And I'm thinking, as I'm taking selfies with both of them, I'm getting a discount here. This is the manager now. And I didn't get anything. But everywhere I went, ball games, referees would come up to me. And would come over to me, Coach Spann, and I'd say, hey, how you doing? You're going to do that handshake, and turn to go back. But he didn't let go. Held on to it. And just, man, Coach Spann, we've been praying for you. Our church has been praying for you. We've been praying for your family. And he just on and on about it. And so I have changed facial expression. I've gone from a coach now to the the preacher, and I, well, you should be the same. Yeah, okay. And so I'm there, and I'm now listening to him. He's talking to me and stuff. And I said, listen, I thank you a whole lot. But I'm thinking, I can't even yell at this guy now. You know, I mean, that's 3 seconds, brother. I can't. He changed how I would do the whole game. It gave us so many opportunities to let the light shine. It also opened up my eyes to the number of believers that are not necessarily members of the church, but people who believe in Christ and who are following Christ to what they think is the best that they can do. And everywhere I would go, liquor stores, furniture stores, everywhere. I went in this one store to buy some stuff, home goods or something, and the lady just staring at me, and I said, okay. She says, do you teach at Nashville Christian? Well, I have the shirt on with Nashville Christian. Yes, ma'am. Well, are you, am I the one who got shot? She said, yes. I just didn't know how to say it. Well, I said, yeah, I'm the one who got shot. And so everywhere I'd go, the people would recognize. One brother stopped me in Publix going through the aisle, cracker aisle. I was looking for crackers. And he stops me and starts, Joey Spann, yes, sir. And he's an elder at Western Hills. And so I talked with him, and they've been praying for stuff. And all of a sudden, we're praying there in the aisle. I mean, just like that. You know, man, we're so happy that you're okay, Joey. Man, it's so good. God, thank you so much. And I'm praying, didn't even know I was praying. And right there in the aisle, people walking by us. And I told the preacher, who was one of my kids from years gone by, I said, man, we started praying there in the aisle, David. He said, yeah, brother, drop a prayer wherever he is. He just drop a prayer. He gave us an opportunity, gave me an opportunity to see the number of people. Sometimes when you feel like, and preachers are guilty of this a little bit, we preach that the world's against us and we've got to be strong, the persecutions that's coming our way. And it's true, those things are accurate to a degree. But there's also the degree in which there are believers everywhere. Elijah was worried because he felt alone, and God said, no, you're not alone. Paul in Corinth felt alone, and the Lord told Paul, you're not alone. I got many believers here. And I tell you, there was a great sensation when I realized that there were that many believers in the world. Joseph was sold by his brothers, and then a lot of terrible things happened to Joseph, you know, and his brothers come back to him at the end. You remember this at the end of Genesis, and his brothers and their father have come back to live in Egypt because of the famine back in their land, and they're treated like royalty over here, and things are great. And then the father dies, and the brothers now say, uh-oh, I bet Joseph tries to kill us now that dad's dead. He's been waiting. And they are worried, and Joseph made those words that are so well known. What you did, you meant for evil. Do you know how that ends up? But God meant it for good. And I think Satan meant this to be evil, and yet God took the very essence of what Satan had tried to do, and he turned it into something that we could glorify God with. We could bless him. Well, one of our girls said this on the TV camera, said, love conquers all. And it does. Love endures everything. And it gives you the ability to hold on to your faith and to hold on to your integrity and hold on to who you are, no matter the circumstances. I've been asked, how's the church doing? And I tell people, church doing all right. Have y'all healed yet? No. I don't see us healing. I see us coping, handling. We're going to redo the auditorium because of the bullet and blood all over the place, and we didn't want our people to have to come back into that. And so we redid. We're going to choose chairs or pews. So I wanted chairs, but I don't get to sit but half the service, so I didn't really care. But they voted pews. And so I asked them afterwards, I said, why are you voting pews? I don't understand. They said, well, if it happens again, we can hide under a pew. We can't hide under a chair. I said, well, I can throw a chair. I can't throw a pew. But someone walks in the auditorium, like when service gets going. We were having a Sunday school class, and someone walked in about 10 minutes late, had a stocking cap on, had a book bag, and he carried it in, and everybody stopped. When our door opens up, the whole auditorium, you can see them do this. Now, they don't want to turn, but they're watching. And a lady came in the other day and came in and went straight to the bathroom. And I saw that, and I saw the people waiting for someone to walk in. They weren't coming in. I said, she's gone to the restroom. They said, okay. And this guy came in, and he came in, he squeezed in the pew there, and he stopped, and he put his bag up on top of the pew. He hadn't sat down yet. And I'm still teaching, but I'm watching him and trying to concentrate on what I'm saying. He reaches down into his book bag, and he's pulling it out. And I don't carry a gun. Some of our members are doing so now. But it's been good that I don't have a gun. I'd probably shot that guy. He pulled out a Bible, sat down, and started studying with us. We don't have visitors so much as we have strangers now. I don't know if that even makes sense to you. Well, that's a heartless way of looking at it. I'm just telling you, it's affected us. We keep our eyes on people now more than what we did before. We're a little more cautious, a little more scared, some might say. But that goes on. Has it church healed through it? Well, we're handling it. God is good in the fact that He's letting us handle it. They also asked this question, said, do you forgive him? Do you forgive him? They asked me that on Tuesday after being shot on Sunday. Do you forgive him? And my answer then is the same as it is today. Yes, I forgive him. Now, he hadn't asked. That's between him and God, but I forgive him. I believe the members at our church have forgiven him. The ones who are struggling is the family of the young girl who was killed. Her sister, a real good friend of mine, she was talking to me, and she said, Joey, we can't forgive like y'all are forgiving. And they felt guilty because of it. And I said, listen, you lost your sister. It's understandable. You just have to work your way through it. If my granddaughter had turned left and he had killed her, I don't know. I hope I would, but I don't know. But have we forgiven him? Yes. I don't want him to go to hell. I want him to go to jail, but I don't want him to go to hell. The Lord has given us the supreme example of forgiving. And He's told us through the Apostle Paul that if you want forgiveness, you better forgive other people. My nephew called me up. He stayed with me that first week. I raised Richie as a son just about, and he preaches and teaches and coaches up in Kentucky now. And he called me up a couple months later. He said, how you doing, Joey? I said, I'm doing good, Rich. He said, how's your faith? I said, it's fine. Yeah, I'm okay. Everything's okay. He said, I'm not. I said, what's wrong? He said, well, I can't forgive him. I said, why not? He said, I want to shoot him like he shot you. They can't get over it. He said, I'm going to a psychiatrist now. I've been to 2 sessions with him. And the man asked me last time, he said, what is it you want to do to the guy? He said, I want to put 2 shells in him like he did my uncle. Now, he's still preaching. But this is inside of him. And it's eating him up. And I told him, I said, Rich, you've got to work on you got to forgive him. I think this forgiveness that God wants us to give to people is for us, not for them. That's them and God. Richie has this, and we all know this. You've held a grudge against someone, and when their name is mentioned, you have that churn in your stomach. When they walk in a room, you have that little hatred that shoots through you. It's like a cancer. And Jesus said, what I want y'all to do to handle all that is to forgive them. Let it go. And I think the forgiving is for us. Now, this week, we're going to go back to the trial, and we're going to relive this. I've been reliving it a lot, speaking at a lot of different churches, so it's not as hard on me yet. But some of them, it's hard on. They're dreading this. Some have broken out into hives. Some can't sleep. They're dreading this. And again, I wasn't dreading it much. And the girl said, Joey, you weren't afraid. You were gone in 10 seconds. The rest of us were scared to death. So I encourage you and I ask you that as we start the trial tomorrow, that you'll pray for our church, pray for our people. Pray for the attorneys. Pray for Emmanuel Sampson's his name, the young man who shot us. Pray for him. Just keep us in your prayers with God. Forgiveness is the biggest thing. This type of lesson isn't so much about an invitation, but we'll extend one. Receiving forgiveness is the key. When I stand before God, I want to stand forgiven. I wanted to buy a license plate that had written out on it, forgiven, because we're all sinners. I could have a front license plate said sinner and a back license plate said forgiven. And the key is to be forgiven when we stand before God Almighty. I thank you for your invitation today, and I thank you for your attention. And I do have to leave real quick, but I really do appreciate it. If there's anyone here who needs prayers, you do need to seek forgiveness, your brothers and sisters here, there may be someone in here you're holding a grudge against. You shouldn't do that. You need to come today and get it right. You need to go to them and get it right. You need to handle that. Get your life right with God. If you're not a Christian, you want to be baptized into Christ, they'll take care of that here this morning. Thank you again. But this time, we give the invitation to the people who might want to respond. If you'd stand, please.